What's up everyone, John from Beyond ARTV coming at you with an unfortunate video that I hoped I wouldn't have to make, but it just seems like this thing got a little bit out of control. You guys might be familiar if you're on Twitter with the whole beef that was going down between Jarrod Alonge, a popular YouTube musician, creator, parody artist, pretty well known. He's had some famous tracks that have made it pretty high up there. He's done his thing on YouTube for a while now. I've been following him for years, and it was between him and the band Knuckle, more specifically the members Joe and Nick. Joe and Nick, especially Joe, the lead singer of this band, really seemed to take issue with Jarrod mispronouncing the band's name. Knuckle, I believe, is the pronunciation that he mispronounces it as. Obviously, it's Knuckle, and Jarrod is no stranger to this. Obviously, he has several videos called Mispronouncing Band Names that are quite well known, especially fans of his, fans of the scene in general, pop, punk, that whole community. They seem to be pretty familiar with Jarrod's work. But today, Joe just kind of went on a tirade because Jarrod selling this new shirt in his merch store, Knuckle, and yeah, it's a parody. It's quite obviously a joke and falls under fair use, and he's selling it, and the band just seemed to quickly jump up in arms and start attacking Jarrod about specific things, and a lot of things were just made as accusations, and it just flew out of left field. We're bringing Jarrod on today. I wanted to talk with him. That's really the only way to do it properly, I feel like, and we just kind of sat down, chatted about what was going on here, exactly what he thought about some of the specific things that the band members had to say. And my biggest thing is that Knuckle coming off like complete hypocrites here, because, I mean, they do the exact same thing, profiting off of a Knuckle shirt that used the PlayStation logo. I mean, you know, if you're gonna call somebody out for having a shirt that uses your band's fame or legacy or reputation or whatever it is, and you're gonna do the same thing, nobody is hurting anybody's reputation here. But let's just go ahead and transfer over to the interview that I have with Jarrod here. Jarrod, could you man, could you hop off of that real quick so we could actually get this little interview discussion thing started?
I mean, the Sun and Moon demo is pretty important, but I guess I'll give you some time.
I mean, there's other things on the table today. It seems like you've been involved in some things that might outweigh that just a bit. But I mean, like, take your time by all means.
Oh, you just want me to explain anything? Okay.
Yes.
Nothing really happened. Just some people seem a little upset with what I do.
Yeah.
Taking offense to things that are meant as jokes, and that's pretty much what my days consisted of. Not being too specific.
Right. Not naming any particular names. Just totally random. Totally random. Tweets. Guys, if you are not familiar though, on a real note, what has happened kind of today, it started at sometime this morning, I believe, and has faded into an evening thing. A couple of the members of the band Knuckle have taken offense to Jarrod selling a certain merch design, and it's printed on a green t-shirt. Could you, just in case I don't want to mispronounce the parody term, is it Knuckle? Is that correct?
I believe it is Knuckle. Yes, that is correct.
So what seems to be the holdup on their end, more specifically Joseph from the band, Joe from Knuckle, what seemed to be his initial problem with you selling the merch?
I'm not entirely sure. I don't really understand it, because it's just something that if it happened to me, if it happened to my band, I'd just brush it off. I don't really understand what the big deal is, but apparently it's a big deal. So I guess he just doesn't like his band's name being pronounced incorrectly, which that's all I've been able to really pull from this whole situation.
Not anything in terms of actual breaking any kind of copyright or
yes,
anything that's protected under fair use. It's only something that he seems to be. To me, it relates back to something like, you remember the John Cena thing? We've seen all the memes there, and he started asking people, you know, I'm just so sick of the memes. People need to stop meming it. It seems like it makes people do things more whenever something
It's a
like
general rule of the internet. I mean, you have the Harambe memes, which they were dying out as they should have. But I believe someone at the Cincinnati Zoo said, "Stop making memes," and that doesn't work.
No,
So now we're still dealing with Harambe memes.
Exactly, and then we see people like, I believe it was Sylvester Stallone that was apparently trying to keep it on the hush-hush that he was paying to keep these memes out of Google search results, and, you know, that obviously makes things worse. But to get
people can say and do what they want to do, but I guess in all seriousness, the main thing I want people to, I guess, take away from this, I mean, I'm not going to be thinking about this when I go to bed tonight. It's so, like, just petty and ridiculous. It's actually just, like, really, really funny. I think it's probably the funniest thing to happen to me this week. But there's kind of two ways of looking at it. There's the perspective of the legality of making such a parody shirt, and the just the I guess the acceptance of the humor. That's another aspect. When it comes to the legality of it, the shirt, I mean, it hardly needs to be protected by parody laws, because it's not even the same name.
It's not a real band.
It's a very generic text that nobody has a copyright on, and I don't believe anybody has the trademark to that specific shade of green. So that being said, it's fully, I mean, my life, what I do for work basically revolves around what constitutes fair use and what is protected under copyright law and fair use laws. And this specific shirt, I've done more different things that were closer to not, I guess, being within the realm of fair use. But this specific instance, this is totally fine. There's nothing legally wrong about this. Okay,
Right.
so there's that whole thing, which is whatever. But then there's the aspect of, is it okay, or is it, like, ethically okay?
Yeah, is it a moral dilemma here?
Yeah, and I guess you could justify that this is like harassment, which it isn't, and you have to be very thin-skinned to consider this harassment, or that it's defiling your name, or tearing your brand down. I mean, I mispronounced their band name in a video like 2 years ago, but that was among like 100 other band names I mispronounced.
Exactly, and then there's been a part 2 to that video as well, you know, mispronouncing multiple band names, and I have yet to have seen any of them getting, you know, super upset, or
for
I
sure.
haven't seen any feedback on that.
And I mean, I've never, if I hear anything from people I meet, it's like, multiple people on Warped Tour, both Warped Tours, have told me that the Knuckle thing introduced them to Knuckle Puck, and they really like Knuckle Puck, which I think that's great. I really like Knuckle Puck's music. I want them to do well. I also want them to take a joke. But I don't know. I lost my train of thought. It's all very confusing.
It's understandable to lose your train of thought over something like this, just because, I mean, I'm sure it's frustrating from a content creator's point of view. I mean,
it is frustrating. I mean, I'm not setting out to upset people. That's not my goal.
Right, and
I just want people to be happy. I do it to make people laugh, and I've succeeded in that respect. People like it. So I mean, it's not desirable when people get really offended by it, when it's like very clearly a joke.
Right.
I don't want to do that, but I also don't want to censor myself and act like just because a joke makes someone upset that you should not do that thing. I mean, there's a difference between like being deliberately hurtful and just making light of something.
We're not going to dance on glass here, is basically what we're saying, I think. And it comes back to something you guys might know, is the whole H3H3 situation earlier this year, and their whole fair use thing. Not that Jarrod is being sued, or that Knuckle Puck have grounds to sue Jarrod, but it's kind of circles back to that, because I think of the whole, just what was going on there, and just the term fair use not being understood, whether it be for parody, for commentary, whatever it might be, it does fall under fair use because it is very clearly parody, and obviously, like Jarrod was just saying, it's very clearly a complete joke from just the things that are being said, and obviously the information that is being brought forth. And what really kind of struck me as odd is whenever, I believe was it not their guitarist, was it Nick, that pulled out some information that said, isn't this coming from the guy that made a song with the use of the word faggot in it?
Yeah, I don't even know how to respond to that because I didn't do that at all.
Right. I'm just like, who are you thinking of in this specific situation? And the fact is they act like your move was so calculated, your move was so reckless, and that you should be maybe possibly called out for that. But in turn, they have loosely thrown out something that could be taken as slander.
Exactly. I mean, like, that is literally slander. I mean, I'm not. You can slander me all day on Twitter. Like, I don't really care. It's not gonna affect me too much because it isn't true.
Right.
But I mean, it just doesn't make sense when you have someone like getting really offended by something, by just like a very innocent joke, and then they'll like turn around and just make claims that I make homophobic slurs in my music, when like literally that's never happened. And like there's not a single person that will say like, oh yeah, I remember that. Like
exactly. I saw
like, you think if I called someone a faggot in a song, like that would be a big deal. Like everyone would know about it.
Right.
It's literally, it's 2016. Like you can't say things like that. I wouldn't want to say things like that. I have a gay uncle. I have a lot of gay friends. I don't know, but they've helped me understand the things you have to go through every day as a homosexual person. So right. It's weird with some adult guy in a well-known band is just like, yeah, this guy's a faggot.
He's so quick to throw that out as just like any shred of something that he might have in order to defame or take away from the statement that you've made. And you weren't even really making a statement, I don't feel like, with this shirt. It was unveiling a new line of merch. That was one of many items that are available. And obviously this one is getting the most attention. I'm probably going to pick up a shirt for myself just because I want one after all this. Still rocking your Defend I would literally die for pop punk shirt, by the way. But
yeah, that one. Again, I don't think any of these jokes are funny. It's just what seems to do well.
Right.
That joke dies soon along with all the other ones.
I think the last point that I wanted to bring up with you and really touch on you is the point that I believe it was Joe brought up, basically accusing you of living under the guise of satire or parody for a desperate attempt to reclaim some sort of attention. And what doesn't make sense to me, and what doesn't really settle right, is the fact that this is what you've done your entire time on YouTube. I've been following you for years, and nothing is different now. If anything, it's been dialed back some. I feel like transitioned into other projects. So how does that make you feel whenever you hear something like that? But then, in the same, in another setting, they might praise a parody. Like if somebody did a parody of one of their songs, or if maybe they talked about something like the great Weird Al, not saying that they have, but how do you think people like that survive? And I feel like that's what a lot of people aren't seeing from this argument here.
It comes to what you value, or I guess what you define as success. I mean, people tell me all the time, I'm used to it, that like you only do this for like money, or you only do this to like stay relevant. But I think that just shows that's what that person thinks makes you successful. I mean, when I made Every Pop Punk Vocalist, that was like my first video that did really well, and it's like my highest viewed video. Right. That was like my peak. Like I've been going downhill since. Like I don't care. I think I'm very irrelevant now. Like I think Jarrod Dines has all the great scene jokes now. He has almost 1 million subscribers. That's great. And during that time period when I was making that videos like that, it was very stressful. I didn't really like it, but I was just kind of going with it. But so the whole being relevant thing has never really mattered to me. in my opinion, I'm gonna be totally like completely irrelevant in like a couple years. And that's fine because I'm not expecting to like be making YouTube videos until I'm 50 years old.
Right.
But I mean, what I do now, I mean, I just got off tour with August Burns Red. I made a bunch of videos with them, most of which haven't been released yet. I've been upgrading my equipment. I'm trying to like get involved in doing some film projects. And that's fine. I'm happy with that. I mean, I live in a small apartment. I have my 2 cats. I don't make a crazy amount of money, which is fine. So I guess I went really off topic, but I'm sure
I mean, I completely
that has some value to some people.
Exactly. It means a lot to know. I feel like to some people to know just the fact that you are this just human person, a very real person on YouTube that's not just trying to thrive off of one certain thing. If so, you'd be turning out insert this vocalist here every month just
not to say I don't pound jokes into the ground. I mean, I literally have an album called Beating a Dead Horse. And I personally find humor in overused jokes that are annoying.
Right.
Because I'm the annoying person in my family, and it's just something that personally humors me. But
anyone that follows you on Twitter knows that.
Oh yeah, of course. I make shitty old overused jokes all the time.
But it's not as a guise to stay relevant or to desperately fit in with the children of today. I think what this conversation really boils down to is the fact that I think it was a very childlike move for these assumptions and kind of attacks to be made, because once again, it's kind of like not a mob in Knuckle Puck sense, but a decent sized fan base being not, kind of unleashed on you, and you're seeing all of these different uninformed sides that are going off of the assumption that, maybe everything that this band or artist says is correct, or maybe they're not familiar with what the fair use and parody laws are. What would you say to anyone that has maybe come to this video and kind of had their eyes opened in terms of some of what exists in terms of the legality of parody and fair use?
What do I have to say to those people?
Mm-hmm. What do you have to say, Jarrod?
I mean, you can say whatever you want on the internet. You can have an opinion. You can like a band without necessarily agreeing with their beliefs. Not everything is a social justice war. You can just relax and enjoy things like a normal person without getting too stressed out over everything. I mean, the legality of fair use is one thing, but to me, this whole thing is more of an issue of just taking a joke and getting mad over something that was intended as a joke only hurts you and stresses you out and doesn't really do anything to make people stop making those jokes. I mean, there's literally nothing anyone can do to make me like take back a joke unless I really messed up and said something horrible. So,
right.
I mean, just don't look for things that make you upset. And if something upsets you, just go do something else. Like, don't be subscribed to me if you don't like my stuff. Like, that's fine. Go.
Don't like potential jokes. If you don't like potential jokes or whatever it may be,
go subscribe to some shitty channel like ARTV. I don't give a crap.
Exactly. I mean, I keep telling you, and that that actually brings up a good point. I meant to ask you while I had you on the line here.
Yes.
There was a certain video that recently surfaced. I'll put it up on screen here, just so all of our viewers can see. There was a video that surfaced from Warped Tour this past year. I'm sorry, Warped Tour, that surfaced earlier this year, and you seem to be calling my channel out specifically, just no context.
Hey Jan Compton, I've been watching your YouTube videos. Not gonna lie, they kind of suck. I appreciate that one album review, but aside from that, it's a little lackluster.
I don't necessarily remember doing that. I don't even, unless you have the evidence. I don't think anybody would support such a claim.
I don't think that I need to surface that. I think that I can just make this claim, and that's going to be fine at the end of the day. I mean, I have it. It's in a file somewhere in a hard drive. I mean, I'm sure
you do. Whatever you say. I
I could thumb through and find it, but I mean,
whatever you want. I highly doubt that's the thing.
We'll see, Jarrod. We'll see what surfaces in the next few weeks. But in all seriousness, Jarrod, thank you for coming on today. Obviously, the majority of you guys probably already know Jarrod, but just in case you do not, check out his channel. It's in the description down below. He did a short video on this today as well, obviously highlighting some of his new merch as well. So if you guys would like to check that out, I will link it down in the description. And Jarrod, thanks for your time today, man.